The character dynamic between Cloud and Sephiroth is probably more relevant now than ever, even more so than in 1997, and I'm going to tell you why. We live in a time where men are living lonelier lives than ever, have less direction than ever, and feel ever escalating social pressure thanks to social media and the internet in general. I mean, it's become a meme at this point to ridicule men due to physical traits that can't be changed or financial inadequacy that they may or may not have control over. It's basically become a genre on TikTok at this point. A man nowadays seems to never be rich enough, or tall enough, or charismatic enough to meet the ever-increasing standards for men, even though opportunities for upward mobility keep getting farther and farther away for the average man. So much so that people are looking at six-figure earners and calling them average, and people who have literal six-packs are calling their physiques quote-unquote mid. So if people who seem to be in the top 10% of success markers are average, then what does that make the rest of the world? Why am I mentioning this in a Final Fantasy VII video? How is this relevant to Cloud and Sephiroth and their dynamic? Well, it's a good question to ask, considering the general point of Cloud as a main character has been a bit muddled over the years. I think in an effort to market Cloud and Sephiroth for profits, they have somewhat been reduced to just be the cool guys with swords in several interpretations of the story. Mainly, this includes some spin-offs and probably Advent Children to an extent, but at the core of both characters, I believe, is the story of two men struggling to find their identity in a world where violence and profits reign supreme, where the external validation of money and power have already conquered most things in society, to the point that the planet being destroyed is an afterthought to the people in power. Within that oppressive system, there are these two characters, Cloud and Sephiroth, whose perspectives give interesting commentary on what is a healthy masculine ideal to strive for. You see, Cloud represents the average man, as I mentioned at the start of the video. But when we start the story, it's not very apparent. He acts like he got it all together, he's extremely stoic, and seems very physically capable to destroy anything that stands in his way. But in between all the sword slashing and fighting, there's a general sense that Cloud has something going on mentally. As it turns out, the reason Cloud can do all these amazing physical feats is because he was experimented on and essentially tortured after the Nibelheim incident. He was injected with Genova cells and showered with Mako energy, similar to how young men who join a specialized program soldier are created. He was left in a catatonic state and later thrown away by Shinra military after they killed his friend and mentor Zack for trying to attempt an escape. Cloud wasn't even important enough for the military to kill, so they left him stranded in the desert with his friend's sword. Because of the torture he had to go through, his mind was fragmented. He had to piece together a false identity based on some of his memories and some of what he knew of Zack. So his status as soldier first class, mercenary, and bodyguard are all based on a lie due to his trauma and need for an identity. The reality is, Cloud was just a regular kid from a small town. He wasn't talented enough to join soldier, so he remained an average grunt in the military. During his upbringing, he wasn't strong by nature. He had very little friends, and overall he felt like he wasn't good enough or accepted by his community. So he decided that he needed to take action and join the military if he ever wants to improve his social standing. If he ever wanted to be like Sephiroth.
I'm going to be a soldier. The best of the best. Like Sephiroth.
The great war hero, huh? Isn't it pretty hard to become a soldier?
Yeah, so I won't be back for a long time.
Guess not. Think you'll be in the papers?
I'll try.
And that's where the relationship to Sephiroth starts. Sephiroth represents the masculine ideal for Cloud. Sephiroth is substantially taller than Cloud, always seems to be a step ahead in knowledge, and stoic in the face of any challenge. He has enough power and talent to be considered a walking, breathing weapon of mass destruction. Also, within this universe, Sephiroth is like a type of Michael Jordan or LeBron James to the masculine youth. He's famous all over the world for his power, and his story inspires thousands to join the Shinra military. The story clearly establishes that no one in the world seems to be able to reach the standard that Sephiroth has set, but that doesn't stop men from trying. But ironically enough, Sephiroth was also living based on a lie similar to Cloud. It turns out that Sephiroth's superiority is a product of a twisted experiment led by Shinra. This later found out by Sephiroth during the Nibelheim incident when his identity is put into question. When Sephiroth gets an inclination that he might be less than human, maybe a monster, his identity shatters.
My mother's name was Genova. Could it be that I was created the same way? Am I the same as these monsters?
Sephiroth.
Ever since I was a child, I knew that I was different, that I was special, but not like this. Not like this. Am I even human?
See, unlike Cloud, who had a formative identity thanks to his hometown, a definitive mother and a childhood friend in Tifa, Sephiroth's identity was built all on the external. When Zack attempts to ask Sephiroth about his hometown, he laughs and explains that he doesn't have one. He just knows that his mother's name is Genova.
Tell me, how does it feel? I have no home, so I wouldn't know.
You still got parents, though, right?
A mother named Genova. She died shortly after I was born. My father... Why am I talking about this? Come on, let's go.
The only things keeping his ego together were his title as soldier, his battle ability, and his overall superiority. But once this superiority is suddenly explained as some form of experiment, he attempts in any way to restore his identity by researching the only formative identity source he has, which is the name Genova. Sephiroth can't accept a reality where he will be deemed inferior, so he uses all the cognitive bias he can muster and makes up a story about his mother being Genova and him having a connection to the ancients, using some research journals from the Shinra mansion. This leads him to arrive at his desire to fulfill Genova's will of him becoming the god of the planet. The fallen, most powerful angel attempting to become God, a heavy theological parallel we are all familiar with. But the reality is that Sephiroth is just as lost as Cloud. He's chasing an ideal that's not even a reality. It turns out that Sephiroth is really not Genova's son. He has no connection to the ancients whatsoever, like he believes. It turns out that Sephiroth is really just a man incapable of accepting a reality where he is not superior. He's just a pathetic, entitled man willing to destroy the world for his own ego. Maybe if Sephiroth had more formative experiences similar to Cloud in the shape of loved ones or family members, instead of formulating his identity on external value like power, fame, and superiority, things could have turned out differently for him. But due to Shinra using him as a weapon and propaganda tool, they ended up creating a bigger monster than they ever realized. Now, from Cloud's perspective, Sephiroth is still that masculine ideal to strive for. Sephiroth still has more power than him throughout the story and seems to be dictating the events of the story without the party's knowledge. As long as Cloud's identity is fragmented, and he is acting in ways that fit the original goal of being like Sephiroth, he will always have a degree of influence over Cloud's actions. And that's why we see that Sephiroth can manipulate Cloud into certain behaviors and actions without his consent. Mentally and physically, Cloud is being controlled by this impossible standard that even Sephiroth himself couldn't reach. Once Cloud accepts his past and integrates his past self into his personality, only then can he go and defeat Sephiroth physically and then remove him permanently from his mind.
Careful now. That which lies ahead does not yet exist. Not yet. Seven seconds till the end.
So how does this relate to modern times, and why do I believe that these themes are more relevant than ever? Like I said, in modern times there seems to be a growing number of young men that feel ostracized by society. As standards for success rise, more and more men feel as though they don't measure up physically, financially, and some of them don't even feel like they're worthy of love or respect. These men are susceptible to manipulation by entities that want to extract resources from them or even use them for their own purposes. Just like Shinra used Sephiroth to draw in susceptible men to their oppressive military, and later Sephiroth used Cloud for different purposes during the story. Especially in the age of social media, it's extremely easy to reach a mass of these susceptible men and sell them on something by exploiting their insecurities. I think it's extremely important that one is conscious of this and firm in your identity as an individual to prevent this from happening. Don't let individuals or entities use your frustration for their own personal gain. Also, don't rely on external validation from others to form your identity. I believe the point of Cloud as a main character is to show you that you don't need all these external validators to feel valuable. At the end of the day, Cloud was never Soldier First Class, and he wasn't ever stronger than Sephiroth. But he was strong in his own right. And I think you can apply that to real life. It's okay to take pride in your abilities. You don't need to be a famous artist to take pride in your art. You don't need to be a professional athlete to consider yourself athletic. You don't need to be a genius prodigy or even be accepted to a specific university to feel like you're intelligent. And you don't need to be a multimillionaire to feel like you are successful financially. With the rise of social media, there's a lot of Sephiroths running around. People who look larger than life, who got more material wealth than you, who are better looking than you, more influence. But a lot of them just base their identity on external validation. I bet if you look inside their closet for 10 seconds, you'd find that they don't even measure up to the ideal that they present to the world. And remember this concept if you're going to take anything out of this video. You are the main character in your own story. And sometimes you have to destroy the Sephiroth in your own mind so you can remember that and assume your proper role.